What's happening, everyone? It's me, it's Count here with another Pokemon Go video. Today I wanted to talk about this Equinox event that we just got in Pokemon Go. There's a lot of disappointment regarding this event, and I wanted to address a lot of that disappointment. This is going to be off the cuff. This is not going to be edited too much, and I'm just going to be giving my thoughts regarding a lot of the disappointment that players are expressing regarding this event. So the Equinox event is something that we can expect every year around the springtime for the United States, and I think in the Southern Hemisphere it's actually the autumn, but that's why it's called the Equinox. But yeah, this year it was a little bit underwhelming compared to the Equinox event that we got last year. We got 2 new shinies, but unfortunately both of these shinies are extremely hard to find. It's Solrock and Lunatone, especially for the people who are over on the Western Hemisphere. They're having a lot of difficulty finding Lunatone at the moment. And yeah, unfortunately a lot of players are just disappointed. There isn't any kind of Stardust bonus. There really isn't any kind of experience bonus. The raid bosses are a little bit underwhelming. Everyone is just generally very disappointed by this event. I think the way that Niantic has been handling events have been phenomenal. I mean, event after event after event, this is something that us as players have been wanting for so long, especially those of us who have been playing since the beginning, and it looks like Niantic is just on top of their game. They're constantly giving us something fresh, and they're constantly giving us something new, and the way that they're rolling out shinies is actually pretty exciting. I think a lot of players find a lot of enjoyment out of shiny hunting as of right now. I think with the game as it currently is, like, a lot of people are saying it's just all about shiny hunting. I disagree with that. I think there's a lot of ways to enjoy the game aside from shiny hunting. And to be honest with you, I don't mind the way that Niantic rolls out shinies. I think it's actually pretty good that they do it in a bit of a slow pace. With each event there's something new, and it's a great way to hype up each event. But unfortunately for this event in particular, it was just not as great as the events that we've had in the past. And I think for a lot of players, they just assume that every single event is going to be just as good or even better than the event that precedes it. So this event is definitely underwhelming if you compare it to a lot of the events that we've already had in 2019. But I actually think this is okay for Pokemon Go. Why do I say that? Well, it's because of something called event fatigue. I really think for a lot of us who are playing this game, it is a little bit overwhelming at times when we have to constantly look for a new shiny. And for me personally, I actually think this event is okay, mainly because, for one, I don't live in a grass biome, so I know I'm being a little bit biased here, but because I don't live in a grass biome, this has certainly diversified spawns in my area, and I know for people who live in grass biomes, this is very frustrating because they already have grass Pokemon spawning in droves. But for me personally, I think this is fine. I really like the fact that this is right before Trico Community Day. This has allowed me to pick up some really high IV Trico ahead of Community Day, and I really like the fact that they are adding Grovyle into raids before Community Day. This is something that they typically do not do. Before every Community Day, they do not release that Pokemon or any of its evolutions as raid bosses typically. I mean, if you think about Swinub Community Day, they actually took out Piloswine from the raid rotation before Swinub Community Day started. So you can kind of see what I'm talking about here. There are a lot of positives that we could hold on to when it comes to this event, and I really think that for a lot of players there is that outrage mentality. They see a lot of people disappointed, especially some big content creators with this event, so they themselves feel like they should be disappointed as well. But I really think that you should take a deep look into how you play and how you enjoy the game, and then try to find the positives with the event in that way. But again, like I said, this event is very underwhelming compared to a lot of the events that we've had in the past, and I really think that for a lot of players, their entitlement to the game actually is merited, mainly because of how Niantic has spoiled us in the past. So for a lot of people who are disappointed by this event, for a lot of people who are upset by this event, I can totally understand why they are, and I think it is justified mainly because of the hole that Niantic kind of dug themselves in. I've said this in videos in the past, but I really think that with the rate that Niantic is going with these events and with these shinies, I think it's great for us as players. I think it's brought a lot of positives to the game, but it also puts a lot of pressure on Niantic. They have to keep up with these events, they have to keep them exciting, and they have to constantly one-up themselves at a really high rate that it's going to essentially create situations like this where an event will come along, it may not necessarily be as impactful as the event before it, and unfortunately a lot of players are going to be disappointed. This is just one of the effects of having such a great event cycle. So if you take a look at the events that we've had right before the Equinox event, you can understand why players are disappointed. We've had some phenomenal events with some great bonuses, and we just don't see that with this Equinox event. This Equinox event is a little bit bland compared to the event that we had just before it. I mean, the fact that we've had all of these fighting type Pokemon, we've had increased experience bonuses, we've had gym battling bonuses, and a whole bunch of new shinies. And of course, a lot of players are going to be disappointed that this event doesn't really have that many bonuses aside from increased spawns of a type that a lot of people see very frequently anyway. And I do think it's important to point out that when it comes to these sort of events, players are just expecting new things, they're expecting a lot of different things, so naturally players are going to be disappointed. I think a lot of players are expecting there to be a Leafeon to be released with this event, and there's other people who thought there would be Shiny Oddish, which is definitely a shiny that a lot of players were looking forward to. I think there are always going to be moments like this with every event that they release. I think a lot of players are always going to have their own personal expectations, and they won't all be met, unfortunately. So yeah, Niantic has been doing a really great job listening to feedback. I really think for future events, what they're going to do is just listen to what players are expecting and kind of gear the events towards those expectations. I think for them to have their own plan and to expect the players to fall in line, yeah, that does benefit us as players at times, but I also think it benefits Niantic to listen to the community's wants and desires as well. I think this was also very apparent with Shiny Rayquaza, or the lack thereof. For a lot of players, they expected a Shiny Rayquaza release, but unfortunately Niantic didn't have that in their plans. But I really think that for the last couple of events, it's not that detrimental to the game. I think it's just some lessons that Niantic are learning, and they are definitely showing progress. I mean, if you look at stuff like Clamperl Community Day compared to the Feebas Community Day, they're definitely showing signs of improvement, and they're definitely showing evidence that they're listening to the community. So we really have to give them the benefit of the doubt here. And I do want to point out that there was a time where we didn't have events like this. So the fact that us as players are disappointed at the game to this level is actually a really big positive, because aside from just having just widespread problems that are just game breaking, of course there's some people who will say there are still issues like that, and I do agree with them that dodge bug is just ridiculously horrible. But regardless, the fact that we're complaining about disappointing events as opposed to big game-breaking issues, I think that's a huge positive for Pokemon Go. I do think that Niantic does listen to the community. I do think they listen to the feedback. So I do believe that the next events that are coming for this year are going to be completely stellar. They've been doing a really great job listening to feedback, so I'm pretty sure Niantic has their ears to the ground when it comes to this event. I think for a lot of players who are disappointed, Niantic is fully aware of it. I do think the big positive regarding the disappointment from this event is the fact that Niantic is doing a really great job listening to feedback, especially with some of the past events that we've had, and I really think that this could only be something really beneficial for us as players, because of course Niantic, if they're seeing how disappointed we are as players with their events, then they're going to step up their game and create better events. So that is a huge positive, that is a huge takeaway we can take from all of this disappointment. But anyway, I would love to know your thoughts regarding all of this down below. Let me know what you think about the Equinox event. Are you extremely disappointed by this event? Why are you disappointed by this event? I would love to know your thoughts. And again, I want to emphasize the fact that I am not against your disappointment. I actually agree with you that you should be disappointed with an event like this, but it's not necessarily your fault, and it's up to Niantic to do something about it. So I really hope they do that here. But yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, and if it's your first time here, hit that subscribe button, and if you enjoyed this video, hit that thumbs up button as well. I am Count Jinsula, and I'll catch you all later.